Welcome to E-Tree's Enhancements. Today we're going to go over one of the most common things that I see online, and that is particularly people wondering why their platform is able to cycle certain subsonics but not others. But hold up, before we get too carried away, if you were not aware, E-Tree's Enhancements LLC has moved on to do more than just YouTube videos for educational purposes. We have now also created a website so that we can also assist you. So if you're having any issues with your particular 300 blackout platform, you can contact us through our website so that we can assist you with your particular platform's issues when it comes to cycling 300 blackout. We have things like undergas solutions, overgas solutions, items that will just generally help your 300 blackout platform, and a few other things here and there, as well as information that we share. We also have a weekly webinar in which we can also communicate directly with you and anybody else that wishes to join it, as it will be live every Saturday at 10 a.m. EST. It's a great way for you to also learn the things that I'm going to be explaining so that I can guide each person to the specific process in order for you to achieve full function, as it's not always necessary to do everything depending on the platform in order for you to get your platform cycling efficiently. So definitely stop by the website. We also have Patreon on the site. It's a great way to support us, so definitely check that out. Now let's get into the main thing as to why some subsonic ammunition cycles and then others do not. Number one, you should be running it with a suppressor, and specifically with a baffled suppressor, not a flow through, because that ruins most of your back pressure. You need the extra back pressure in order to cycle. It is possible to run subsonics without a suppressor. We can help you do that if you really need or want to do that, but that's not what we're covering. With that said, let's dive into the exact reason why you are not able to cycle, like for example, Hornady Sub X, Hornady Black 208 grain, or SMB 200 grain. And the main reason, I'm gonna write it down so it's all visible, is your powder. This is your main culprit right here. What do you mean by that? And you're like, what do you mean powder? Well, now, I will apologize for my terrible handwriting, but it is what it is. The main issue with the powder is that we have, number one, no clue what powder is being used in that specific cartridge that you purchased. None whatsoever. So, okay, well, cool, it still comes out at 1,000 feet per second-ish. But why doesn't it cycle? Okay, well, the main thing about the powder is the burn rate. Okay, well, I thought all powder was the same. No. The main thing with the burn rate, and we're gonna kind of like go on two sides here. We're not gonna dive into every single one. But there is a specific chart out there that you can find. It's called a powder burn rate chart, in which they're categorized based on how fast your powder burns compared to other powders. So you can have really fast powders, and then you'll have really slow powders. They're based over time. The slower it burns, the longer it takes for it to consume. But what you end up with, and we're going to call it all the way to one extreme and the other, it's basically slow and fast powders. And there's going to be things that fall in between, but we need to look at both extremes. All right, cool. You know that there's slow and there's fast powders. What of them? What do they do? So a slow powder continues to burn at a slower pace, and therefore it just continues building up pressure as the bullet exits the barrel. Now this is, basically in milliseconds. You never get to really see it, but it is a thing that happens. So when you have a slow powder, you end up with this exact scenario. You will end up with low chamber pressures, but you end up with high port pressures. I can't write today, but anyway. So you end up with high port pressures. They're like, okay, cool, whatever. What does this mean? Well, high port pressures are what your system as a gas-operated firearm requires to be able to cycle. If you don't have enough gas, or you don't have enough gas pressure, it's not going to cycle the system, plain and simple. So when you use a slow burning powder, you can guarantee that you can at least exchange and reduce the chamber pressure, and in exchange get a higher port pressure to continue to cycle the system. And you can get really slow powders. When we go over to fast powders are essentially the opposite. You would have high chamber pressures with low port pressures. That's basically it. You have just traded off the main element that makes your platform cycle. Both of these scenarios, out of a 16-inch barrel, we'll leave it 1,000 feet per second. But this one will cycle, and this one will not. This one won't cycle out of a 16-inch carbine length barrel, but it will cycle out of a pistol length barrel. And that's because we've now shifted the gas port to an earlier location so that we have more increased pressure for the gas port. So you're like, okay, well, why is there even a difference? Which we're going to get into, start talking about the pros and the cons. We're actually going to divide this even further into different sections. So here, we're going to do pros, cons, pros, cons. What are the pros of the slow burning powders? Cycling efficiency. This is the main pro of your slow burning powder. What are the cons? The cons of the slow burning powder is that because it has a slower burn rate, you need more barrel length or powder to be able to achieve the velocity. Longer barrel, that's one of the cons. And we'll get to another con in a second. But what are the pros on the fast powder burn rate? Which is how we're going to get into the cons of this. So the pro of the fast burning powder is that it is quieter. And this is because the actual powder is burnt off and has stopped expanding or burning by the time it exits the barrel, which is the main reason other companies use fast powders as opposed to slow powders. So, what are the cons? Low pore pressure. This is why some companies don't use fast burning powders, because obviously the pro is very good. You're trying to shoot subsonic, so this is being quieter is excellent. But then you end up with guns that don't cycle. So an ammunition manufacturer has to make a choice. The choice is, do we create ammunition that cycles with everything, or do we create ammunition that is quiet? Does that make sense? They have to make the choice. There's obviously like in-betweens, but we're going full extent. Every platform's different, so they'll behave differently, and some will require super slow powders, others will require medium rate burn rate powders. Now that we've covered that, we're going to go with the other con and the reason why fast burning powders are the best for subsonics. And that is that because it is slower, it will equate to a louder pop. This is the main issue with the cons on this burn rate. Not only will you not achieve full velocity out of a short barrel unless you really pack that thing with powder, because it does require more powder in order for it to reach velocity. So typically you'll need less powder with the faster powder and more powder with the slower powder, assuming you have a long barrel. You'll be less susceptible with the fast burning powder out of a short barrel. But the main con is the louder pop. That's what it is. Because the powder keeps burning, it continues burning even when the gas flows out. Whether that's the gas tube, the end of the suppressor, or the chamber, it's going to be louder because the pressures are continuing to expand or at peak pressures. And why your platform can cycle great with some and then doesn't with others. That's because 100% this manufacturer decided that they wanted their subsonics to be ultra quiet, whereas this manufacturer decided that they wanted something that just worked on everything. They're both still subsonics, but this one's louder. All right, so now that the board is clear, we can start fresh. Let's talk about the different powders, because obviously it would be most ideal for you to tailor your ammunition to your platform as opposed to purchasing something available is great, but sometimes you have to tailor the gun to that ammunition in order for it to function. However, you can also tailor the ammunition to your gun, and that is where this comes in. I'm not going to get into the details of little nitty-gritty stuff on how to make them function. That's what we're here for. We are going to get to it, but not on this video. So if you want to tailor subsonic ammunition for your particular platform, you have to make the decision on whether your platform requires a slow or a fast. So you can find a sweet spot, but it would require messing with a lot of things. So I'm going to give you examples of slow and fast burning powders so that you're aware of what you're looking at if you start reloading. Slow and then fast. Examples of slow burning powder: Accurate 1680. Everybody mentions it as being great for subsonic. That's why. Because it's slow. Slow burn means good cycling efficiency, higher port pressures. The next one up that people praise for being able to cycle everything: CFE Black. That's even slower than 1680. Even slower. To the point that it is so slow that I'm actually able to cycle subsonics out of our 6-inch platform with a pistol length gas without a suppressor. Not only is it able to cycle and lock back without the suppressor, but it's only doing so with the projectile leaving the barrel at 820 feet per second. Not even 1,000. That's how slow these burn. It's insane, but notoriously loud.
And action. All right, this is attempt number 3. Anyway, 220 grain subs, Sierra Match King projectiles. These are some of my loads with CFE Black. CFE Black is actually a very slow powder, so let's see if it cycles. No
Unsuppressed.
Yeah, clarification, no forbidden popsicle. No whisper pickle. No whisper pickle. Once again, don't let her tell you 6 inches is not enough. Definitely not enough to hit the target. No, because I wasn't aiming at the target. Oh, yeah, again. Anyway.
So, now we start going into faster powders. And there is a powder burn rate chart, which you can find online. You just Google powder burn rate chart. You'll find it. And the faster burning powders, which seem to be the most popular with the 300 blackout community, are going to be H110, which is primarily chosen for supers because they work really well for supers because it's a very fast burning powder. So therefore you get the most velocity out of it. And then we also have seen a lot of Lil Gun, which I've heard reports of it being a little wonky, and it gets really hot. It gets really hot because it's a really fast powder. Lil Gun is actually faster than H110. Not by much, but it is. And then I believe even faster than that would be the Vitabori, however you say that, N110. You can keep going down the list, like accurate number 9, blah, blah, blah. Then you're really getting into the fast stuff that more than likely won't cycle your setup. Unless you have something like a micro gas system, then that pretty much just eats everything because it's right at the point of an explosion. These are the main ones that you will see reloading. There's a lot of load data information out there for these. So stick to these, make your life easier. Don't spend too much extra money. You are welcome to venture out and then let me know how that works. But keep in mind of the expectations that you will see based on that powder burn rate chart. I have it all printed here because I was planning this time. Let's say I have a system that cycles H110 just fine and I want to make it quieter. Well, am I already like at the limit with H110 or can I work with it further? That's something only you can decide. But maybe I decide I want to venture further, so I'm going to look at the list and I'm going to go towards the faster powder. I could try Lil Gun and 110. Or I could be really irresponsible and go all the way to accurate number 9 in hopes that it does cycle. But that's a big jump, which is relative because I don't know how really that big of a jump it is, but on the chart it is a big jump. But if it doesn't cycle, well, now I just spent a ton of money on, you know, a pound of powder I can't use. So it's best to at least start with the known ones, particularly these. I would say, in my opinion, from my experience, don't use CFE Black. You can tailor the gun to cycle better. At least start with 1680. 1680 is kind of a great sweet spot for subs in order for you to learn what your system actually needs. And then if you're looking to start with faster burning powders, I would say start with H110. H110 is kind of like that. Some guns can't cycle it, but it is a very nice sweet spot for it when you do get it to cycle. And we can help you with that. Just contact us. We'll help you out. Besides this, I wanted to dive into a few other things, especially if you don't reload. If you don't reload, which is you don't want to reload, which is actually a great way of saving money on subs, but you know, that's why I reload. I hate reloading, but it's a lot cheaper. If you don't want to reload or you didn't have time to reload, so you go to the store and you're like, damn it, I need to buy some of these super expensive 300 blackout subsonics. Cool. Do you know how your platform cycles? Yes or no? You don't. Okay, the ammunition that you need to go try first, or that I would pick up that is easiest to cycle so far out of the store that I found, is Winchester 200 grain. I think it's 200 grain. Scratch that. I don't remember if it's 200 grain, so we're just gonna call it White Box, WB. Winchester White Box, from my experience, has a substantially slower powder. My guess is probably 1680. If not close to it, if I had to guess. From there, the next one down would be Remington, whatever, we're gonna call it Green Box. These should work. They have a slightly faster power. Don't quote me on this, but the next one that I'm gonna mention that is, I believe, a slow power is gonna be Sig Sauer. And this is just what I've seen. I've never really bought Sig Sauer ammunition, never used it, but I have seen other people use it. And it's been my experience that typically they're able to cycle this just fine. So don't take my word for it. Don't blame me if you buy it and it doesn't work. I'm just letting you know. I think. I know these for sure, but it still doesn't guarantee function if your platform doesn't, you know, isn't adequately set. From there, ammunition that I would tell you not to buy unless you're trying to improve the efficiency of your system. Always start with these. That'll tell you what directions to go. But if you're already struggling here, there's no point in you even going over there. Okay? Good? Understood? Okay. The faster burning powders that I've found are gonna be S and CFB 200 grain. Hornady in general. Anything Hornady is super fast powder. Just skip it unless you make your system efficient enough to be able to do it. Otherwise, skip it. Obviously, if you plan on using Sub X, definitely test it out first. This is probably the hardest one of the list that I'm going to put here to cycle, is the Hornady. So keep that in mind. And this, like I said, this includes 208 grain and the Sub X. Finally, in Stealth, I don't even know how they write it. Ammo Ink Stealth. That's another one on the faster side. I think it's still on the slower end compared to these two. It might be very similar to the SMBs, but they're still slower burning, aka easier to cycle than the Hornady 208 grain black or Sub X from my experience. Keep that in mind when you go to the store and buy some. Anything past this, I really have no experience. You're just gonna have to test it out. But at least you're aware now what the potential result will be if you purchase anything from here. If you've never shot subs, once again, start with these. If you have shot subs and you know that your system's already overgassed with these, move to these. Okay? Good. If you want to cycle these, we can help you cycle them. So contact us. Definitely support the channel too. Now, the biggest thing to take away from all this is that all of this is subject to change. All of it. For all I know, some ammo company might see this and be like, shit, they now know that our stuff doesn't cycle on anything. Let's change the powder. And then without knowing, they change the powder. And now, cycles with everything, but it's louder. Keep that in mind. All of this could change at any point and you will never know until you try it. So it would be ideal if the manufacturers that make subsonic ammunition would tell you what powder they're running so that you know what to expect. Wouldn't it be great if you knew right off the bat that your platform's not going to cycle it based on experience? That'd be awesome, right? Take note. Maybe you should do that. PSA especially, since you guys watch a lot of this sort of stuff. And I think, speaking of PSA, I think PSA closer to here, but maybe kind of like in the middle. I think they're closer to the slower. Don't take my word for it, but that's why I believe a lot less people have issues with AAC ammo, because of their choice of powder. So that pretty much sums it up. The burn rate is exactly why some subs will cycle in your platform, some won't. So it pretty much sums it up. Now, we are going to be making a video on how to make your platform more efficient, as it's going to be one of our continuation for the 300 Blackout troubleshooting. So definitely subscribe. Keep an eye out for that video. Otherwise, we're more than happy to help you with our webinar. Just subscribe to our newsletter. Keep an eye out for all of this. Make sure you hit the bell notification so you get notified. And that's about it. Keep it coming. That's about it. I'll see you guys in the next video.
Recording. Action! Anyway, the point is that, you know, it locks back and the powder is the primary thing.
Hold on, cut! You're upside down.
Why am I upside down?
I don't know why you're upside down. You got a book-ass phone.
Why are you professionals?
Okay, hold on. Action!
Okay, the point is that you can lock back with the right subs without a suppressor as long as they have the right powder. Period. That's what it is. That's what we're fighting. The pressure range is just so fucking great that it's almost impossible to know what you get unless you test it.
It's so great that you have to talk with your hands.
That's right.
Yes.
It's huge.
I'm directing planes in air traffic.
Yeah. Anyway, that's that kind of shows it. Now we can try the Rattler, see how it does without a suppressor.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right, watch your nose. Okay.
Oh, did it get the camera?